These big, heavy SUVs, they're so passé. They're real gas guzzlers, and who really needs one anyway? I'm a bit bored of hearing it, actually. It's true, you won't need SUVs off-road capabilities in everyday life, and people may buy them for their looks and to be high above the road, but I don't think they've had their day just yet. I'm testing the Tarraco today, and I'll be telling you why.
Seat entered the SUV market with the Ateca and the Arona, but there was still room for improvement. The Tarraco is now the manufacturer's first mid-size SUV and their new flagship vehicle. It comes with 7 seats as optional.
In the past, if you had a big family, you were almost forced to buy a minivan. Often boring family cars, totally uncool. But today you have a choice with more of these big SUVs like the Tarraco entering the market. You can accommodate a family of 7 while it's remaining chic and powerful. So for me, these big SUVs are the minivans of the future.
At its launch, the Tarraco offered 2 gasoline and 2 diesel models, either 110 or 140 kilowatts. We'll be testing the 2-liter 140 kilowatt TDI with a 6-speed manual transmission and front-wheel drive. The Tarraco is the first in a new design era at Seat, with a new hexagonal grille and elegant horizontal lines, giving it an additional sense of dynamism and 3-dimensionality compared to its predecessor, the Ateca. For an extra €800, the Tarraco comes in a 7-seater model. Both the 5- and 7-seater models have an identical trunk capacity to their Volkswagen Group cousin, the Tiguan Allspace. That's no coincidence, since both vehicles are produced in the same factory in Wolfsburg.
With a 7-seater, I'm always interested to see if a 1.93 meter tall man could fit in the back seats. So let's test out, push this forward. With a bit of contortion, I can get through the door, but legroom looks a little tight. So I wouldn't like to sit here, even for a short journey. Okay then, so it's a 7-seater, but only on paper. Now let's move this second row back. And we'll see if I can fit there. I have to say it's quite spacious. I have my little folding table there. My knees fit in nicely here, which is unusual at my height. And most of all, I have plenty of headroom, despite it having a sunroof, which reduces the height. Okay, excellent. But I'll spend most of my time in the driving seat, so let's test that out now. Before starting the engine, let's take a look at the interior, and I have to say it looks good. It's super high quality, and it's a good level up to the VW standards. You can see that in all the buttons and applications. And I really like the upholstery on the seats. It's really nice, but let's get the engine running.
The Tarraco weighs between 1.6 and 1.8 tons, depending on the engine, almost a lightweight for its size. This gives it an edge with something unusual for its class: dynamism.
As far as the handling is concerned, I'm quite happy. It's a bit of a living room atmosphere that feels rather dignified, but the steering is relatively direct, so there's certain sportiness when driving. The only thing that's lacking for me is the 110 kW engine. When going uphill, it's not quite powerful enough, and I'd like a little more torque when in second or third gear. That means on these winding mountain roads, I have to switch gears in order to get my speed up. And that affects fuel consumption, of course. The specifications claim a 7.6-liter consumption that is optimistic. 6.5 liters is more realistic, and that largely thanks to the fact that it's relatively light at 1.7 tons. The Kia Sorento is the same size, and it comes at 2 tons. And you'll notice the Tarraco's lightness when driving.
If you want to push the fuel consumption even further, you'll have to wait until 2020 for the release of the Tarraco's plug-in hybrid model.
The Tarraco drives smoothly on the streets, and that's what it's mainly intended for, but I can also drive off-road, and Seat wants to prove it. That is why they've put together an off-road course near here, Barcelona, and that's where we're heading to right now.
On the way, the poor quality Spanish backroads put our Tarraco's front-wheel drive through its first test. Even without four-wheel drive, it manages the wet country roads well, but for off-road, it's going to need traction. Now the Tarraco will have to show us what it can do on Seat's off-road course.
I've moved to another model which has the off-road package installed, so I can switch over off-road mode now because Seat has provided us a small off-road course. We've also switched from diesel to petrol engine, the 140 kW version from a manual 7-speed DSG transmission. Let me turn on the camera that provides 360-degree aerial view, and then we're ready to take on this course. First gear, let's go. Here we have a 22-degree gradient, so I can accelerate 200 RPM. The camera blinked off for a second, but it's back.
The camera can be adjusted to display various 3D angles as well as the aerial view.
I release the brake, the car brakes itself, now I take it over again. Next obstacle, the second of 4, an axle crossing.
The second obstacle makes the diagonally opposite tires lose their grip and they brake automatically. The entirety of the torque is transferred exclusively to the 2 tires with traction.
Now the lateral inclination with the obstacle slope of 25 degrees.
By comparison, genuine off-roaders like the Mercedes G-Class can drive at angles of up to 30 degrees.
But you don't feel as if the car is tilting sideways? Now same, but the other side. Now the final obstacle looks like a oblique hump.
You need momentum or you'll get stuck.
That was pretty easy. Well did them though. So what can I say? The Seat Tarraco and big SUVs in general are not out of date. Firstly, because they're the modern version of the minivan, and secondly, because they're just trendy these days, and these are SUVs. Though the off-road capabilities are rarely used, there are moments, even if it's 2 or 3 times a year, you may look forward to using that SUV on icy mountain road or in a muddy field. And remember, the Seat Tarraco is very light, only 1.7 tons, so it's no less efficient than a normal minivan.
Modern SUVs like the Seat Tarraco are unfairly labeled as gas guzzlers like the Porsche Cayenne and others. They consume no more than a conventional family minivan they do, but look much trendier.